Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure to welcome you all to our webinar today to discuss emerging trends in rooftop solar market in India. The event is organized by JMK Research, a boutique consulting firm focusing on renewable and e-mobility segments. The session is supported by Goodwe, a leading manufacturer of PV inverters. Quickly on the format of the webinar. The webinar will consist of interactive discussion with our eminent speakers, followed by question and answer session. At the end, we'll take 15 minutes to answer the questions from the attendees. Participants are welcome to submit their question in the Q&A box at the bottom of the webinar window. So for today's discussion, the agenda that is planned is new technology trends in rooftop solar market in India. What is the likely impact of second wave of COVID-19 on rooftop solar market in India? Impact of recent policy and regulatory barriers, current tariff trends in OPEX market, and outlook for rooftop solar market in next 1 to 2 years. And now to take on the discussion today, we have a very interesting mix of industry experts with us today. We have leading project developers, financial, as well as equipment suppliers to share their insights and give us all a holistic perspective on new trends that we can foresee for Indian rooftop solar market. A quick intro for experts here today. We have with us Mr. James Hu, Head of Sales, India and Southeast Asia, Goodwe. We have Ms. Ritu Lal, Vice President, Amplus Solar. We have Mr. Karan Chadha, Head Sales and Development, Pan India, Fourth Partner. Mr. Sri Prakash Roy, Senior Director and Head CNI Business at Amp Energy India. And lastly, we have Mr. Abhinav Goyal, Energy Consultant from World Bank. Thank you all to be part of this discussion today. Without taking much time, we would like to start with James Hu first. As a leading PV inverter supplier, we believe you understand a lot about the global technology trends in the rooftop solar market across various other regions. So from you, we want to know what are some of the key important technology trends that you are currently seeing in India market, or what could be the new trends that you are likely to expect that India market will adopt to. Second important thing we want to understand from you is what is your perspective on Indian rooftop market growth outlook for next few years? Over to you, James.
Yeah. Okay, so you may have to answer the question first, right? Before I do the presentation.
No, you can start with the presentation, James, and meanwhile, in parallel, you can address the questions.
Okay, sure. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's here. Okay, let me get started. Thank you all so much, right, for taking time attending this webinar, especially during these hard times. We do hope that we all can get over this COVID situation very soon. So here I will start with the introduction of our utility scale inverter. It's a 1500 voltage DC voltage, and the power is 250 kilowatt. I will start with some features of this inverter. So for this inverter, we have a input current of 30 ampere. So that will be compatible with the newest module technology, like the hot topic about the transformation from the wafer size of 182 to 210. So with higher current actually. So this our inverter is just to design to fit with this new technology. So we have a 30 ampere the DC current to be compatible with this new module. And also now we've seen that the bifacial PV modules plus tracking system are quite popular for most of the utility scale projects. So we've designed with some features to cater with this requirement as well, like right high DC current, as I just mentioned for the big size module as well. So here our inverter can work with this bifacial module plus tracking system as well. And we will have some actual references over the global market for this technology. And actually it's a 12 MPPT inverter. So that can be perfect for the complex terrain applications, right? So in the complex terrain areas, right? So we can see a lot of mismatches happening. So this multiple MPPT can solve this problem, particularly can enhance the generation generally. And also we have integrated the PID repair function inside the inverter. So the automatic detection and the restoration effect is 99% as per our test. So now this is also very popular requirement from the market about this PID function. And you know, by using our inverter, it can help you reduce the initial investment as well, because this inverter can support the installation of both copper and aluminum cable, so up to 300 square millimeters. So also we support the use of a DC Y connector to save your cost on the DC cables. And this is about the SVG function at night. So our, you know, SVG feature based on the integrated IGBT compared to the traditional SVG using TCR. So it will help you to increase the reaction time, right? So it will just be 10 milliseconds, and also it's capable of generating both capacitive and inductive power, and it can filter more than 50% harmonic during compensation, and can also save the cost, right, for you to use additional SVG cabinet. And the next feature is the power line communication. So we have developed the generation 2, comparing to our first generation. This second generation is actually of 20 times faster transmission actually of the data. So I mean, generally it will help you to save the cost and the hazards for using the communication cable. And so you using our PLC box. I mean, one box can be connected to 60 numbers inverters. And so basically, I mean, it will enhance the transmission safety, right, for the data. It's one of the most prominent features among the market. So as per the feedback from customers. And next one is FCI. So because you're asking me about this new technology that is coming to the rooftop projects, I would say as we are seeing in Europe and US, as always, right? FCI requirement is always there. So I mean, you will be able to shut down all the modules, right? I mean, in case there is some fire, accident, or whatsoever. So that's about FCI. We have this technology as well, and we will ship our inverters with these features to overseas market. I mean, the smaller one and also the big high rating inverters. So with this function, it will give the warning, right, about the fire risk, and also it can prevent, shut down the inverter, right, when this warning is coming up, so to protect the whole system from fire. So the trip time is less than 0.5 seconds. And we've got the certificates. Now pretty much it's required by the US market. So the UL certificate is very important. And also we've got the IEC certificate for this. And so our inverter can detect the temperature and humidity level inside the inverter body. So it's quite important to tell the installer or the O&M team, right, when we do feel some high level of temperature or humidity, because that might reflect some wrongdoing, right, on the installation part, or maybe some connectors broken or something, but there's some leakage of moisture into the inverter. So this kind of monitoring of the temperature and the humidity level is quite important, especially in India, as we've seen that this area is of a very high level of temperature and humidity. So that's a challenge to all the inverter vendors, as per my experience. So that's why we developed this feature. And so the inverter is designed with IP66 for the whole inverter body. And the fan, we're having this IP68 protection standard. And so we're giving type 2 SPD protection for the inverter. And also we have type 3 SPD on the communication board, because like we've done a project at 10 megawatt in Cochin Airport. So that area, in the time of the year, a lot of lighting is happening. So customer particularly asked to, you have to include the SPD in your communication board, because they've seen the sounder traveling through the communication cable to damage the communication board. So then we developed this feature particularly. And remote shutdown. So we have the dry contact to do this. So you can put IS45 cable to your control room, right, to connect to the button. Then just by pressing the single button, you can shut down multiple inverters outside there on the open air, right? So multiple inverters can be shut down within 200 milliseconds, yeah. So this is required by a lot of EPC. So they just want to have this comfort that when there is some urgency happen, then they do have the option to shut down the inverters, by one single button from the control room, right, remotely. Nighttime maintenance. So because we have AC power supply to the inverter, then 24 hours monitoring is available. And so yeah, also you can do the upgrade and the maintenance of the inverter in nighttime, right, instead of doing it in daytime, which will affect the inverter generation. Smart O&M. So we have the chip to record all the error information and for the data analysis, right, of the problem, and also to generate a solution that will prevent the problem from happening again. And also we do have this IV curve diagnose that will help you to just position, right, the faulty module immediately, right, instead of spending a lot of time checking some other normal modules. So this is a very advanced technology we've seen, right, in the industry. So we have this feature as well for this product. So multiple communication methods and give the convenience to the customers, like the PLC for the communication, both PLC and IS45. And for the inverter setup, you can use Bluetooth, right? And we have the software app as well, SolarGo, to help to do the setup of the inverter parameters. Yeah, that will be all for my presentation.
Thank you, James.
Yeah.
For the presentation. I think those are very interesting products that Goodway is launching. Now on back to my question that I've initially asked you. What is your take on India market growth, rooftop market growth? And do you think there are any new technology trends that are going to be adopted by the sector in India?
Yeah, so before we launched this utility scale inverter, we've been focusing on the rooftop segment for Indian market, actually. So especially for the CNI segment. So we've been playing a leading role there since 2017, you can say that, by working with especially Tata Power. So we've been the major supplier to their rooftop projects. So we do understand the market very much, and so we're happy to see, right? I mean, like with the increasing of the traditional electricity price and also the consumption of power for some factories and commercial buildings, that is growing bigger and bigger. So the need, right, for the cheaper solar power is growing fast. So that's why we also see a growth, right, for the solar rooftop projects as well. And so that's about CNI, and also a lot of states, right, they publish the policy for residential projects as well, like we see in Gujarat, right? A lot of residential projects going on there. So we participated in that project as well. So for rooftop, I mean, now it's affected, even last year, affected by the COVID situation, but still last year, right, we've seen a lot of drop from the utility scale projects, but the residential rooftop still going on with the same level actually as previous years. And this year we're anticipating that the rooftop market will still be maintained at the same level. We don't expect a lot of growth, but will be maintained at the same level. And but after the COVID situation, definitely, I mean, the market will respond a lot, right? So, and about the new technology, so for rooftop, we've seen also the 1500 volt technology is adopting there for the rooftop projects. So that might be the new trend that we need to put our focus on. And about this typical technical requirement, because now market is going more and more price sensitive. So the requirement, like for some particular feature, is getting popular because just like I mentioned, the wire connector connection, right, to reduce the DC cable. I mean, this kind of requirement is putting up by customer repeatedly. And so it's all related to the cost saving part. And also FSI, just like I mentioned, I mean, it has been, the requirement has been transferred from the European and US market now to Indian market. We've seen more and more customers asking about the FCI feature for the rooftop projects even. Yeah, that's the typical features of noticed about India rooftop market.
Thank you, James. I think let's hear what are the views of other experts on the panel here today. Ritu, next I would like to ask from you basically, what are the new things, new trends that you are seeing in India market? And most importantly, what is the likely impact of second wave of COVID-19 on the rooftop? Over to you, Ritu.
Hi, I'm audible to all?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So let me answer the second question first. The second wave impact. The second wave impact is slightly different from the first wave impact. The first lockdown, I mean, the first break that we had really in terms of providing service, etc., was a cause not of the COVID wave, but actually of the first lockdown. And the first lockdown happened at a time when COVID was still very small in the country. And I think the idea behind the lockdown then was, I mean, as things turned out, it did work out, but the idea was that if we lock down hard and heavy right now, we'll be able to prevent the growth of COVID in the country, right? So very early on, I think there was, 3-4 weeks of disruption, pure mayhem. A lot of our C&I clients, because of the lockdown and the shutdown that happened, huge amounts of our capacity were non-functional. Some net metering operations got notices from distribution companies saying that, please shut down your solar plant because you're destabilizing the grid. Now, I take that with a pinch of salt, but we did get those notices. Our clients got those notices. And then I think all companies, including Amplus, we got back on our feet rather quickly. Right? We found out new ways of working, the distance working, masking, and we adopted that very quickly, and it was back to business. So we found a safe way of working, and despite COVID continuously growing in the country, we did not have any such outbreak at any of our locations. So even if one person did contract it from somewhere, it was not like they were passing it on to their colleagues. So we managed to operate fairly safely. And I think for a lot of other clients, I mean, business came back, and we actually had a pretty strong rooftop performance last year. Unfortunately, the second wave, and I mean, people have rightly referred to it as a tsunami. I think it has been worse than our worst fears. And I don't think anything in my life, and I don't think any of us sitting here in front of me, any of us has witnessed anything, of this scale, and we don't know how to deal with it. I'm sure it's not just me alone who's losing people on a daily basis, and sometimes more than one person a day. So, just to function, stay safe, and be able to do the day-to-day functions is becoming a bit of a challenge right now. And we've just in the beginning of a lockdown. So, a lot of Maharashtra, I know, started out early. So those lockdowns are again having an impact. And also because the nature of transmission of the virus is somewhat different. I think just, the distance and mask alone is not sufficing. Again, this is a temporary dip, because, this is not, fast moving consumer goods, where if I don't have that cup of coffee today, I'm not going to drink 2 coffees tomorrow. So I think from the demand side of it, it will come back. There'll be a few months of a blip, but we definitely will come back. The residential segment also is getting impacted, because like I said earlier, with safe practices, people did not have an issue. If you were sitting on their terrace or in their lawns and setting up a rooftop, setting up a small solar plant. But right now, that is also difficult, because I think everybody has just decided that the safest thing to do is lock themselves in and have no interaction with anyone. We understand that, we respect that. Also, with the amount of disease which has spread, I think all over there are people impacted, right, in all aspects of the supply chain. So let's wait it out, and there is really no other choice but at this point in time to focus on safety first, and lives first, and then I'm sure livelihoods will follow. So I know that's a very somber opening note from me, but stay safe, everybody. As to the future for rooftop solar over the next 12 months, I think very, very bright on the C&I side as well as on the residential side. And on the C&I side, I think never before has there been a need to optimize costs as strongly as there is today, because what has happened economically speaking, where people stand. So I think let's wait it out. Let's see if the market drops further. 6 months later, I've heard that prices are going to crash even more. I think that will, and I've seen that is not happening. A lot of now there is a lot of demand from the clients saying, you've given us that solar proposal. We need to move on it faster. How quickly can we have it set up? So they need to save money, which is what has essentially been driving most of the usage in the country. Of course, there are the green benefits also, but we are a very, very price sensitive market. So that demand stays very strong. And of late, the demand even from the residential side has come up. Yes, the impact on the economy, on individual homeowners, etc., might be a bit of a dip there, whether people will be willing to spare 50,000, 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 3 lakh rupees, whatever the size of plant that they think is the right size for them. What kind of finance availabilities they're going to be, what kind of interest costs they're going to be. There are those issues. So, but I see them again, maybe 6 months to 12 months down the line, even for the residences to definitely pick up, despite the fact that there is obviously going to be a price increase. We have already, because of various other factors, we are seeing module prices go up. And within a few months, we have customs duty coming up in India. So there will definitely, if things go the way they are going and these duties are going to come in, we will see an increase in prices, especially in the rooftop segment, where we have always borne that hit, right? We have not had that pass-through clause or any grandfathering ever offered to us at all. So in the rooftop segment, we have either imported and paid duties, whichever duties have been prevailing at the time, or we have bought at a higher price from the domestic market. So I do anticipate, not just from the duties point of view, but with everything else that is happening on the supply side, as well as incoming, duties in April next year, definitely the prices will go up.
So despite price increase, you think the market is going to go up, right?
Yes.
That is what.
Yes.
Because of the demand from C&I as well as residential.
Yes.
Thank you, Ritu. I think
it may just have a bigger impact on the utility segment, because that is where the bulk of India's solar story is, right? But I'm fairly bullish on demand not diminishing on the C&I side.
Right, Ritu. Thank you. Let's hear it out from other panelists on board. Karan, I would like to take your views now. What do you think? What are the trends that you have seen recently in rooftop market? And I would like you to focus and specifically talk about what are the new financing trends and technology trends that we are seeing in India.
Great. Thank you so much, Jyoti. Thanks for having me on the panel. So quick, like if we just basically summarize the last couple of years on the rooftop segment on the C&I side. So I think one thing is clear that C&I has is pretty much, I think right now about 60-70% of the total rooftop market, depending on which report you kind of look at. So fundamentally, I think that that whole concept of basically getting lower cost of electricity while meeting your sustainability goals, I think that whole premise is fundamentally strong. So I don't see any change to that going into the future. Yes, we've had the last couple of years where the rooftop segment and especially the C&I segment has probably been flat, probably around a gigawatt, where it saw growth upwards of 40-50% in years prior, but last couple of years has been flat. And I think there are all reasons, right? We know what happened in the last 1 year, and then there has obviously been a lot of policy interventions where DISCOMs realized that they're giving up on their most profitable customers, which has kind of led to a huge headwind. But still, the market is still kind of holding strong at about a gigawatt. I think going forward, there are 2 or 3 important factors that we really have to consider. I think if you look at the tailwinds or the areas of growth, one is that you would see that today, organizations are more and more conscious about sustainability. I think that whole thing that actually has picked up a lot of momentum globally, and sooner or later, all of that will actually translate to India as well. As a matter of fact, if you see some of the global reports, the highest, the record installations as far as renewable energy was concerned was in the pandemic year in 2020. So we see a lot more of clients, where ESG is not just going to be a nice to have. I think it's going to become mandatory to do business. to basically attract investment, to attract investor interest in your organization. So I think ESG will certainly drive a need towards sustainability. And I think that's one major trend that's going to happen, where we would see that earlier it was probably the large, high profile companies or companies which were always in the news. And I think that is actually going to percolate down, and will also go down to companies which are not as large, not so much in the public eye, would also have, targets around sustainability, net zero. That is certainly one thing which is going to be a big driver. The second part in terms of technology, so there are two parts, right? One is that there is obviously incremental technology that happens all the improvements that happen all the time. We've seen that panel sizes in terms of their capacity have gone up. You can actually put more on the same amount of space, and all those incremental improvements, etc. Some of the things that James talked about, all of those things will actually continue to happen. I think the next one that all of us are actually waiting for, we don't know whether it's going to be 2 years or 3 years, or only God can predict that. But we think that the idea of rooftop systems getting combined with battery storage is certainly going to be the next step up change in terms of technology that is actually going to happen. Already, the case is viable in some cases. Another 25-30% reduction in battery cost will probably make a solar battery probably at grid parity, and then anything subsequent to that, starts giving the customers benefits in terms of cost as well. So I think that's another, major trend to watch out for, which will actually also help mitigate some of the impacts in terms of the regulatory changes that are happening. So that would be another part. And I think the third one, which will start happening, and I think it may not be something that may happen immediately in the next year or so, but I think from a regulatory perspective, what we've had right now is a case where certain states, give the ability for net metering or using the grid as a storage, and they basically don't ask anything in return. And then there are other states which say, no, I don't want you to feed anything into the grid. I really think that over the next couple of years, there will be a middle ground, where DISCOMs will realize that, look, fundamentally, there's a strong business case for having rooftop solar. Ultimately, it's the lowest cost of electricity you are generating and consuming at the same place. And if we are going to give customers some, if to make it viable, they need to use the grid in terms of net metering. And if there's some charges that need to be paid, so that, everyone benefits, the customer benefits, the DISCOM benefits, I think there would be more and more of a trend towards that. We've already seen in Gujarat, where the new solar policy kind of talks about that. I don't know how it's going to be implemented. I guess that still has to be worked out. But ultimately, what they are talking about is the fact that you can, use net metering facility as long as you pay a certain amount to the grid. So the implementation is something that needs to be figured out there, but I'm sure in due course of time it will. So for me, these are the three things, the focus on ESG, battery technology, and DISCOMs kind of having a middle ground, and not having a 1 or 0 approach. So I think these are the three things that I see as key trends.
Those are very relevant points that you have made, and I think that makes sense for this market to grow, to adopt and look at these three things. Let's hear it out from Mr. Rai from AMP Energy. Mr. Rai, what is your take on the rooftop solar market in India? What do you think are the new emerging trends here, and what is you are expecting in terms of growth for this market?
Yeah, hi everybody. So what Ritu and Karan mentioned in their thoughts, I definitely believe, obviously the second wave and all, it will have a temporary halt on the overall growth of the rooftop business. But since economically it makes sense for the C&I consumers to go for rooftop, even with an increase in the price, which we are actually started anticipating from the start of this year because of the various metal indexes or increase in polysilicon price, the overall tariff numbers are going up, and with the custom duties anticipated the start of next year, there will be an increase in the tariff to the range of around 30 to 40 paisa or 50 paisa. but still there will be substantial saving which a C&I consumer will make even after uh, uh, putting a solar rooftop at a higher tariff. So, and this particular phase which is there, I think it will remain for a quarter. But anyhow, we are looking for a very interesting and a robust business for both open access as well as on-site rooftop. So that is point one. Second, on on the technology front, obviously there is a lot because of the competitive tariffs. Obviously, the focus of every developer is to maximize the number of kilowatt hours per square meter. Okay, so how you can actually do this is first is obviously use of high efficiency panels. So we have already started seeing use of mono PERC and even bifacial modules in the rooftop installation. So that is helping the developers to put more kilowatt, and also the output is also higher as compared to a normal poly modules that we were using earlier. So that is one trend which we are seeing. Second is within the within behind the meter on the ground mounted system, because there are a number of installations which are happening on ground as well. From last 1 year, we are seeing use of trackers also increasing. So, which was definitely not the trend earlier, specifically in a 3-4 megawatt system. The use of tracker was not very prevalent, but now because everybody is interested to get more units, so that is also being used, and obviously we'll see more of it in future. The third most important point, what Karan mentioned, we also, I specifically, I second his thought. Yes, the integration of storage with the existing solar rooftop will add lot of value. Maybe it's still a year or 2 years away, but yes, on the customer front also they have started evaluating whether it can actually help in the peak TOD saving, or during the non-operational days for the system where the net metering is not in place. So in order to save the dim generation thing, people have started evaluating those concepts, and I think it's just a matter of time. Maybe in a year's time or so, when it makes a commercial sense, it will actually create a lot of excitement in behind the meter business. So that is one thing, and obviously on the small improvement that we are doing on a regular basis, like remote monitoring, getting to the module level monitoring, so that we are able to see reduce the downtime and get maximum energy, and obviously the use of robotic cleaning, maybe where the systems of more than 2 megawatt, 3 megawatt are installed on rooftop and ground mounted thing. And now there is a concept of robotic cleaning also being thought through during the design stage. So, and specifically in some key states where we are where water availability is becoming an issue. So I think these are some specific trends which we have started seeing in the rooftop business, and obviously in a year's time we will see a lot of this technologies will actually getting implemented and used as a standard practice in all the C&I segment. So,
Thank you, Mr. Rai. Mr. Rai, just one follow-up question. You've mentioned that there will be increase in tariff of 30 to 40 paisa.
yeah.
You want to give us some range? I'm sorry, I will bug all of my panelists with some specific numbers on growth as well as tariffs, because I think audience wants to know something concrete.
Yeah.
So if you can share, some of the OPEX tariff trends, like what is the current range? You can give some specific state examples, I think.
Yeah, but in fact, if I mention when we talk about a 4 to 5 megawatt customer with a 25 years PPA tenure, the tariff post December 2020, it was in the range of 360 to 380. But maybe start of the first quarter of 2021, where we are seeing a lot of increase in the polysilicon prices, the metal indexes are getting very, very volatile. The tariff numbers are now in the range of around 390 to 4 rupees depending on the tenure. So that trend we are actually seeing, and since been dealing this day in and day out, it is mainly because of obviously the high input cost of modules and structures.
Right.
So,
Thank.
yeah. So this is what my assessment is. Maybe Karan and Ritu may like to add something on this if they have a different opinion.
No, I will take a lot of follow-up questions later on. Let me just hear from our last panelist on board. Thank you, Abhinav, for your patience. Before we take more questions, Abhinav, we would like to know from you, especially on the World Bank concessional credit line. What's the progress on that, and what are the new financing trends that you are seeing in rooftop solar market in India?
Okay, thanks, Jyoti. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning. Good evening. Regarding your first query on the World Bank concessional line, so like so far we have disbursed around 75% of it to State Bank of India. Since the last year when the pandemic or at the onset of the pandemic in the first half year, like from April till September, so we can definitely say that there was a hit because there were very less disbursements and sanction subsequently by SBI. But then post that it started picking up. So I would kind of concur with what Ritu mentioned earlier on the that even in the post from the period when the pandemic started, the growth has kind of sustained or after a certain dip, it has kind of become robust. So we also see, I'm not sure whether, the disbursement from the SBI line is a good enough indicator, but yes, there was a dip initially for 6 months and then it started to pick up again. So that's on the rooftop line. So we have the program running till November 2021. And of course, since 25% of it is still to be disbursed, so we are under discussions with both the government and SBI to see how to take things forward. But in parallel, what I would like to say is that both residential and MSME are the two segments where we are particularly focusing on. And we see that these are the two segments which have a lot of potential, and with some hand holding, these segments can really, going forward, could be the consumer segments to focus on to really kind of jack these numbers from 1 gigawatt to say higher numbers at what as what Karan mentioned, that it's around 1 gigawatt for the last couple of years. So towards that, we are kind of working again on the concessional lines and also a credit guarantee instrument with Ministry of MSME. So which partly answers your second question on, what are the financing trends? So typically in the SBI line, we are giving debt. In this case, it would be a guarantee, and then it would enable multiple lending institutions to kind of lend for rooftop solar in MSME sector specifically by taking some of their credit risks which they see. So that's one of the core focus for us, particularly when it comes to financing or how we see the market can be supported through relevant financing instruments. Back to you, Jyoti.
Thank you, Abhinav. I think there are a few more follow-up questions related to financing as well. But let me come back to you, Ritu, on two things now. I wanted to understand one thing on the policy barrier that is there. There was some notification for a 10 kilowatt net metering connection, which was later revised to 500 kilowatt. What is the impact of that right now? Is the industry taking it as a middle ground, or this is still on a regressive side? What's your take One on that side, policy side, and second other thing I wanted to understand from you is on the residential market. What are the new trends, and what are your some of the trends that you want? I understand Amplus has a separate division to take care of this. So this is what they are performing. Want to know how this market is moving.
Okay. Thanks for that. Yes, so the Ministry of Power, for some reason, when they were producing this rights of prosumers document, they restricted it initially to 5. Okay, and then that 5 then got revised to 10 kilowatts for all rooftop systems. In fact, all on-site systems. So one good thing they did was they said, okay, anything which is on-premise is going to be treated as rooftop. And that's the cap for net metering. Anything above 10 kilowatts would move to gross metering. It was, to the sense that I'm calling it a toothless document, because policies for rooftop solar are decided at the state level, right? The Ministry of Power can, anybody, I mean, they can have advisories, they can have guidelines and suggestions, but eventually it is up to an individual state as to what they choose to do. But why this, what should have been a toothless document, ended up becoming a rather dangerous tool, was because it provided a sort of basis for various states to say, okay, look, this is what the Ministry of Power is also recommending. That somehow, free flow, free growth of rooftop solar is detrimental to the overall energy, electricity picture of the country. And net metering is an enemy, so it has to be stopped. And therefore, that cap of 10 kilowatts is there. And immediately a couple of states picked up on it. One state actually took 5 and one state took 10. Right? There was a lot of other things that the Ministry of Power document had said, and they defined what a prosumer was. They said only if you're injecting, also you're exporting and importing power from the same connection, are you going to be a prosumer? If you have a solar power plant, even if it's like 5 megawatts and it's not injecting anything, then technically you're not a prosumer. So there was a lot of cherry picking that happened. And unfortunately that, though nobody ever listens to anything anybody else has to say outside of the state, this one was found ready adoption. The ministry asked for inputs. I think various industry bodies gave their inputs. And I think one of the responses that we had given through various industry bodies was that, if you look at the cost of rooftop generation, this does not hold good. There'll be several systems which will never ever have a payback, forget any return on investment, because the cost of generation is going to be higher than whatever, numbers that we have seen in terms of what feed-in tariff is going to be. I was actually, and I think I'd like to thank the ministry for looking at the proposals in seriousness. And I think they upped the cap to 500, where the logic was that, and that's what we said. We said 80% of the rooftop systems are going to be less than that size. But they will constitute no more than perhaps 20% of rooftop generation. Will be systems like 200 kilowatts and smaller. So please focus on, leave 80% by volume of your consumers aside. Focus on the large ones, which are actually having an impact. And let's see, what you can do there. And, I know Shri Prakash and Karan have talked about a win-win formula whereby the rooftop owner as well as the distribution company can both gain from the savings of rooftop solar. And we'll be talking of the same thing, even at Amplus and through various industry bodies. We'll focus on those larger ones, which will be 20% of your number of customers, but this is where 80% of rooftop energy is going to get produced. Now, unfortunately, the fact that it is a toothless document is playing out, because again, it's, to the states to see whether they want to adopt it or not. So what we've done is we've urged the ministry to talk about this change, why it was 5 and 10 earlier and why they think it should be 500 now. Because having gone down to 5 and 10, I actually think it's important that they start to talk about it and talk to the different states and talk to regulatory bodies to explain what happened, that, why they think 500 is a reasonable or a rational number. So that is my take on the policy side. Obviously, these policy impediments, the more attractive rooftop solar has been, the greater the policy impediments. we recognize that distribution companies are suffering. But this whole win-lose approach has to go. The reasons why distribution companies are suffering are very legacy issues. The three main issues have nothing to do with renewable energy or rooftop generation. Subsidies not, being able to suffice. The cross subsidies not being able to suffice for the losses on account of direct subsidies. You have collection issues, you have infrastructure issues, you have losses, you have theft, and all of those, which will take, fixing those is not an there's no easy solution. Otherwise, they would have got fixed by now. This one seems like an easy fix, right? At least stop this. But stopping rooftop will still not help distribution companies in the longer run. So we've got to find ways by which at least they can gain commercially from rooftop solar. And I'm going beyond just give them the RPOs. If there can be a reasonable charge, anywhere from like ₹1 to ₹2, depending on the size of the plant that has been set up, then for every unit of solar produced in their territory from the larger rooftop plants, distribution companies actually make money. So we urged because the Ministry of Power said that, what feed-in tariff is not our domain. But I think you've got to make a complete sentence. Otherwise, if you're going to give just a phrase as a part of the sentence, then you're leaving 5 other phrases that, 5 individual people can have their own completion of the sentences. Gross metering will work only on, if the feed-in tariff is fair and sound. So you cannot leave it at say, oh, do gross metering and then whatever feed-in tariff you decide. If you're going to do any kind of benchmarking with utility scale for the feed-in tariff, for rooftop, it's not going to succeed. Feed-in tariff has been there in India for like several years now. And the only reason it's not taken off is because the tariff didn't make sense. Quickly on the second part of the residential trends. Yes, we've created a division called Homescape Solar, specifically for the residential segment, because again, if you look at the history of Amplus, we began as a startup. And when we were going into a new business, we wanted to retain the agility of that startup. So we had a completely, when I say separate, obviously we worked together, the two divisions, but we formed a team specifically to cater to the residential segment. This is the only segment where we sell the solar plant. Otherwise, we are a pure play OpEx company, right? We're a RESCO. We tried to do the RESCO model in the residential segment, but obviously credit guarantee, etc. we couldn't address those issues for a couple of years. And then finally we moved on to this selling systems, but with enhanced product warranties, etc. Making it, absolutely, hassle-free for the user. So one of the things we found, and especially in the more affluent homes, was people didn't want to give up the space. Because when you put up solar on your premises, you lose space. And the second thing was it was aesthetically not appealing. So for this segment of residential consumers, we got an enhanced product, which was a very nice, a pergola design with a wood-clad finish, which looks very premium. And actually, instead of losing space, the customers were able to gain more, because, if it's a terrace or something which is not getting used, here you have a very nice looking structure that's set up, which gives you shade as well as electricity. You actually increase the usable space in your homes. So we found a lot of interest for such products. And obviously the basic products also keep selling. There has been an impetus because of the tenders also that many states have brought out at the same time for rooftops for residences. So actually the volume growth in terms of number of clients that we've added in the residential segment over the last 18 months or so has been very, very high. And apart from a couple of months of the lockdown 2020, we again showed a lot of growth in the residential segment. So there definitely exists a market for that. And I think people have said 10 to 15% of the rooftop story from India could be from the residential market. Definitely possible. So I think the potential and the opportunity is there. I mean, we've estimated to be like for rooftop itself, its possibility is 120, 130 gigawatt easily. So if you're looking at 15% of that coming up from the rooftop, from residential rooftops, that itself is a phenomenal number. And I think we should stay the course and tide out the various highs and lows that will be, causing temporary dips, but stay the course. And at Amplas and Homescape, we're very, very strong in the segment.
Ritu, you mentioned earlier that Amplus has seen a phenomenal growth in 2020 despite COVID. Do you want to share some growth percentage numbers? I think we have 3 leading developers here that will give a correct idea how this market is growing actually. And I will ask the same question to Karan and Mr. Ayu as well, because that's the right indication for us to know how this market is growing.
Okay, so without giving very, I think
just a range
numbers.
Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of rooftop capacity, this year we added maximum kilowatt capacity or megawatt capacity than in any of the following years in the rooftop segment. So I will leave it at that for now.
Okay. All right.
So it was the single highest year for quantum of capacity added.
Right. Both on the CNI as well as on the residential side.
Yes,
right?
see, residential again is new, but tremendous growth. We within a few months of launching 500 plus customers, we've got over 1,000 customers today.
Can we say it's a double-digit growth on a year-on-year basis?
Yes. Yeah. See, right now for us on the residential side, it is also easy, right? Because when the base is small, so we are experiencing very good growth, on the residential side.
All right. Thank you, Ritu. Karan, I would like to ask the same thing from you as well. And one thing is, I want to understand what's the growth of Fourth Partner. We know that Fourth Partner has got a huge funding recently from CDC Group. That's all across the news now. So we wanted to understand how, as a company, year-on-year basis, what's your growth has been. Second question I would like to know from you is, you mentioned about storage as to be the game changer going forward. So have you seen the rise in inquiries from the customers from storage? The tariffs have shown some kind of decline in certain specific cases. Which cases this storage is viable right now?
Fair enough. Great. So I think just to answer your first question in terms of growth, look, like I said, the industry has been flat. So whatever growth we have actually experienced has been at the expense of others in the market in terms of gaining market share. I think those numbers have anyway been published. So we have gained market share, and I don't think that's just something specific to Fourth Partner. I think overall, at least within the CNI segment, because that's a space where we typically spend most of our time, at least, is that we are finding that there is significant amount of consolidation that has happened over the last 2 years. The time of irrational tariffs, let's just give it to the lowest bidder. I think customers are getting better educated. They are also understanding the value of working with a developer who will not only install but maintain the plant. There'll be a single face instead of, there were a number of players who would actually go and build the plant, then they will downsell or sell it to someone else, or find a financial investor, etc. So I think the customers are getting more educated. So yes, for us, the growth that I would say has been more driven by more market share consolidation rather than just saying that industry grew and we also grew along with that. Having said that, I would think that our one of the other segments that we added in the last couple of years. So we've been pretty much a RESCO for the last 5-6 years on the rooftop side, and we also started doing open access projects about 2.5 years back. And again, just given the total number of the scale of those projects versus rooftop, our growth has obviously been coming from that segment, because that just adds a lot more heft. Having said that, even on the rooftop side, I would say that I'm not sure if this was the highest megawatts or something that we added. But I would think that compared to last year, obviously, I don't think we got the same number of orders. I think we had lesser, but we actually gained market share, and so pretty much flattish kind of year for us. And I think the way that we also monitor it is also that it's not about orders won. We have a healthy pipeline that will hopefully show up this year. But, given that 3 months of the year was pretty much a wipeout, so, if you compare the rest of the year, yeah, we've probably grown, 10-15%. We just compare the 3 quarters, the whole year, it's probably flat on the rooftop side.
Right, Karan. On the storage thing now, Karan, that I
Sure,
asked.
sorry, yes. On the storage side, look, to be very honest, I don't think there's any customers beating down my door and saying, give me storage. Right? It's pretty much a push sell right now. I am the one who's basically trying to introduce, we are the ones who are actually going to customers, and, our customers are like, basically, they are, very attuned to now. And we are probably the guys responsible for making them just think in कॉस्ट सेविंग्स तो बोलते हैं कितना है भैया पैसा बचाओ आगे चलो but I think there are 2 or 3 cases very clear, right? One is where there is no net metering, right? When there is no net metering, plus if there are commercial tariffs which are high, for example, states like Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, commercial tariffs are extremely high, right, to the tune of almost 14 rupees or 15 rupees a unit. That's just variable cost. And if there is, a net metering limitation or a contract demand limitation, those would be the cases where, it would make a lot of sense to at least start looking at some part of the battery usage. Second part where it makes sense is that for customers who are not as, for whom, change in electricity cost is not so much of a P&L impact, but they certainly have very strong sustainability targets. That's another place where we really want to start looking at customers saying, that this is something that you should start exploring so that you maximize your renewable potential. See, the thing is that, if you look at a lot of, companies, they have actually made, public, they publicly stated goals of being 100% renewable by 2030, 2025, 2035, whatever it is. Right now, if you look at today also, given all this, even if a customer is allowed to take open access green power plus allowed to take rooftop, the fact that we don't, we have these different time of day, etc. It is not even possible to take 100% renewable, even if the customer wants to spend any amount of money, right? So at the maximum, when we talk to customers, we say, okay, maybe 40, 50, 60% is maybe what you can go green based on the current, regulatory environment, the way that our electricity, market is right now structured. So I think those are the kind of customers where we want to have this, that, okay, this technology kind of gets you to that next leap. Like, how do you basically get to the next level? And so those are the kind of discussions like, and again, I think right now it's a technology sell. It's a more difficult sell, I think, than plain rooftop solar. So, there's more people involved. Like we have to make them understand what if scenarios, etc. All of that, and technically also it's a little more complex, right, in terms of some isolating certain loads, etc. So, but I think that the sooner we as an industry start doing that, the better it is.
Right, Karan. So as you mentioned that there are companies who are having these RE100 targets. We are hearing this model like virtual power purchase agreement. So is that something that customers have started exploring? What's your take on that?
Yes, customers have started asking about that. If you see right now in the current regulations, right, and I understand that regulatory regulations are typically behind the market. There is no concept of a virtual PPA that is actually enforceable in India today. So as an instrument, I really cannot go and sign a virtual PPA, because the only way I can essentially do that is that I fix a certain price of power. I sell that power as brown power, which can only be done in the exchange today. And then whatever is the delta from that, I recover from the customer and give them the green credit, which essentially also has to be, the customer has to be ready to take that credit from an international agency, because the Indian agency will not basically give an REC for that. So I really see that, look, it's an evolving space. I think this is not just a technical thing that, it's not only it's not a technology thing, that it's something which is going to be driven by regulation. It's going to be driven by, what is the customer's willingness to work on it, whether they really see this as, something that adds value to the project, right? One of the reasons why, when the RECs first came in, the idea was that when you basically sell RECs in the market, you are, in a way, financing green projects, right? Even if I do a virtual PPA, or if I basically sell a green project, when I take financing or project financing, I don't get credit for the green energy, right? They just look at it on the what tariff is getting offered. So I think there are multiple factors, both from ability to monetize, get it financed, get the Indian government to actually recognize a virtual PPA. Otherwise, it will be that I can be what I'm doing is basically taking an international registration and offering the customer for a project done in India and REC taken in India. So I think this would be the next space, right? Like, again, when we talk to customers on their journeys around sustainability, right? So we say that, okay, how much, step one for a customer will always be to maximize direct usage, right? That has to be, that's one, that you're directly using green energy. So there's no derivative involved, plus the fact that it's always cheaper. So once you're actually looking at maximizing this, and I think once we reach to that level of 45, 50, 60% of energy of a customer coming from green is where, how do we basically now look at derivatives to make sure that we are using the balance green. So I think that industry I'm sure there'll be a lot of innovative stuff happening around that in the next couple of years. And from Maharashtra came out with this thing as well, right? Where they said that we are going to offer a green tariff to customers.
Yeah.
So, there is going to be a lot of other things that are going to be around that. So that's my take. But I think it's, again, my thing is that, as a RESCO, our first goal is let's maximize your direct usage. Then, of course, we look at other stuff. And, if it makes sense to the customer, it makes sense for us.
Right, Karan. The market is evolving and so are the business models.
Yeah.
Mr. Rai, now to you again. We would like to know from you what has been specifically on the CNI segment, what's the growth of AMP Energy on a year-on-year basis? Some numbers if you can share. And second specific question is, you mentioned there is increasing usage of bifacial modules now in rooftop market. In terms of price increase for bifacial modules versus the energy gain, we just want to understand some economics around there, if you can help.
Yeah, sure. So just I'd like to add one or two points, what Karan mentioned on the VPPA. Okay, so, and also on that 100% RE, which corporates are actually achieving to. Usually, if you see, if for any corporate to achieve 100% RE, obviously there are steps. One is the low-hanging fruit is obviously the on-site part, where you can maximize your on-site installation. The second important thing is they can go for an intra-state open access. The third most important point, which government in the last financial year they have actually come up was a interstate open access, ISTS, which initially they allowed private parties also to go for an ISTS plant. Maybe that can act as a third medium through which they can achieve. And the fourth and the last one is obviously the virtual PPA through IREX and all, which Karan was mentioning. As of now in India, they treat as a derivative contract, but I think the government is looking at it in a positive manner. So maybe we may find something in near future. It might actually get out of the derivative thing. So these are usually 4 steps which any company, if at all they have to achieve 100% RE, need to actually follow. So most of us are on the first and the second step. We have been at various forums been pushing for the third step, which is ISTS. If they can allow ISTS, which is interstate open access, it can help a lot of corporates in gaining that. And last but not the least is the VPPA. So, and we as a company will definitely, we are keen and we are pushing this within the various government sectors. Now, coming to what you mentioned about the overall capacity addition for AMP Energy is concerned. So in AMP, the C&I portfolio consists of both open access as well as the rooftop thing. So we are an integrated vertical. So for the capacity addition part, since we are doing both, so obviously the addition was maximum since the inception, because yes, first was the strong pipeline that we were having, and there was a spillover of the project execution. So that is one part. Second, on the rooftop part, yes, there was a growth on the overall order booking and also on the capacity addition, but not as much as it was a year before last. So we were in a double-digit growth, but earlier before that the numbers were much better, and in fact we are anticipating for a better addition in the current financial year. So that is on the C&I part. As far as bifacial, when you talk about a bifacial module cost versus the energy yield, we have done this analysis for one of the project where we were actually trying to maximize the energy output against the cost that we are putting in. So with a pure play bifacial, the increase in cost against the increase in the overall generation number, it was not making sense. It was not making. But if at all you put a bifacial along with tracker, then you find the overall commercial numbers are making sense, because if you actually see the delta increase in cost is to the tune of around poly versus bifacial, or mono PERC versus bifacial, it is around 5 to 8%, 10% increase in the module cost against the generation increase to the tune of 3.5 to 4%. Okay, so numbers were not actually stacking up only with the bifacial, but if at all you put a tracker along with bifacial, it was making sense. So that was a sample study that we have done just to understand. But but as we move forward, because all of us in the solar industry, we do understand keep since bifacial, mono PERC, even storage, these are new things, and we understand there are a lot of development which will be happening in this particular front. So obviously 1 year down the line, we will be able to get a reasonable price for all these three things, and specifically bifacial and storage, maybe around let's say next year when we speak on this specific topic, we'll be able to add more value as on the number of projects that we have done with storage and with bifacial. Correct. So it is under a evolving stage, and we as a company we are very much looking forward on the rationalization of cost in near future.
Thank you, Mr. Rai. I think that all the three developers on board have given a very holistic overview of the sector. James, let me ask you now, what do you think, how big is India market for GoodWe, and what are your growth expectation that you see in this market?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that. So actually, I would like to share some data right from GoodWe as well. So last year, we were the actually 17% of the supply to India rooftop market. So after which actually more than 80% we supply to the C&I segment. So that's quite an achievement for us. I mean, in last year, that's a record high actually for GoodWe. And so this year, adding by this new product, right, so 1500 volt as for utility scale projects. So we're looking now for some definitely for some big numbers there, and but that depends, right? So now very sorry to see what is happening there. So definitely that's gonna affect the market volume, and also as like we have been discussing now that all the materials prices going up and modules structures, and so I would say that it won't be a surprise if you see the inverter price going up, because now because of a shortage of supply of the chips right across the world. So now it's been the pressure has been transmitted from the automobile business now to inverter as well. So, but we're quite safe for now. But we don't know like in the future, because the supplies, if it is still in such a shortage or something, then definitely the price is going up. So because the supply is smaller than demand, much smaller than demand. So that's going to be another factor that would affect the market growth. And talking about GUI, so because I heard so much about the energy storage technology, so I would say that so whenever you talk about energy storage, you cannot miss out GUI here because we are one of the pioneering companies who is giving this technology to the market, because in 2014 we started to supply the hybrid inverter to energy storage market actually. So like Europe and Australia, all these countries, we have so many installations of the hybrid inverters. So India will be closely watching the trend actually. So like we now have our own battery, so work together with our hybrid inverter. That's gonna be a game changer, I would say, in some extent, in some sense. So we do have a very high hope for the market, like with all this combination of different products and solutions we're providing to the market. So also we're seriously thinking of doing the local production, right? So we've seen a lot of tenders with this kind of requirement as well, and also that's our long-term strategy also. So we're closely talking to like concerned parties about this plan as well. So also we're expanding our team there even during this time. So so we do have a big plan for India. I mean, so we're growing over the past few years, and we have a bigger plan for the market. Yeah, that's about GUI.
Thank you, James. We are all hopeful that the market will grow big, and despite the COVID issues. My next question is for you, Abhinav, and this is from one of the attendees actually. This is: lending institutions are averse to finance rooftop solar projects due to lack of collateral availability or concern on lack of secondary market for the sale of an asset. How can we develop an ecosystem to make rooftop system lending collateral free?
Right. Okay. So as I mentioned previously, so the credit enhancement mechanism, or one of the examples is a credit guarantee instrument, particularly would address this apprehension around the availability of the collateral part, because like it depends on the design of the scheme, so which we are still under in process of designing, but typically the overall objective is that the comfort is provided to a lender to kind of lend to a segment which is conceived or perceived as a high risk off taker. So the way it function is that, just to give an example, like 50% of the, if there is a, so there are first, second loss and third loss. So it is structured in a manner that in case of delays of payment, and then subsequently in case of defaults, a certain portion of risk is taken care by the guarantee provider. So therefore, the banks are nudged to kind of lend to these category, even though they are aware that there is a lack of collateral support, which or recourse which they could have. So that's on the instrument side, or like how from a financing instrument this could be addressed. On the second part where you mentioned that how it could also be supported through a secondary market, I think perhaps some of the developer on this panel may be able to take that question in a better or answer that question in a better manner. I know about Mplus that they had this scheme, or at least it was in some initial stages, but maybe Ritu can come in and talk about the secondary market and how do they see for rooftop solar assets.
Ritu, can you just share some views on the secondary market thing that Abhinav is talking about?
Sorry, Abhinav, could you just be a little specific about what aspect of it?
No, in one of the earlier discussions, it was like Amplus. I'm not sure, but there was a discussion where it was said that if in case of a default by a consumer, this comfort was provided to a lender that wherein Amplus would take away the risk of, you know, like, or kind of see how to relocate the solar assets. So, but I don't know whether there was any headways made by Amplus in that direction.
No, so we have been talking about various risk mitigation, facilities, and we are looking to do this, especially in the in the residential segment, where we are helping our residential customers get credit from lenders with some sort of a credit support mechanism from Amplus towards, if there is a default on payment of the loan. Yes, it's and for the C&I, for the MSME segment, I am not. So again, this is something where we had recommended not doing this directly ourselves, but if there is a third agency that could take the risk insurance, that would help MSMEs then have access to OPEX and Resco Solar, because I don't think for most of the developers that are here, I don't think there'd be too many medium-sized companies we'd have, but I don't think we'd have too many clients in the SME segment, which is again a massive potential, does not have access to capital or credit rating to the extent that would give comfort to developers like ourselves to serve them on the solar power as a service model, but they just get left out. So as we exhaust, and I know one of my other colleagues from the developers had mentioned earlier that as we exhaust the top tier of high credit, large conglomerates, we would all need to find other sources of solar, rooftop solar, and I think SMEs would be there. I don't know if, I think relocation and of assets, I don't think at this point in time is a viable option, though I do know that there is a secondary market for used modules. I mean, that I've heard about it and I'm told it exists, but it's all very unregulated, like, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you kind of shift an existing module from an installed location, I think it voids the warranty that the manufacturer has on it. So it's not something that we would recommend. But again, we keep looking at different ways that we could work on to find solutions for these limitations that exist. But I don't think we have any concrete answers on this one.
Thank you, Ritu.
Can I add to that? Jyoti,
Sure.
can I add to that? Look,
Sure.
while I think in theory it might seem like, there's a secondary market, I think there are 2 or 3 things important, right? Anytime you look to relocate an asset, irrespective of size, you are looking at about 20% of the value of the asset is eroded, because you can take the panels and some of the inverters, but the wiring, structures, etc., not everything is easy to relocate, right? The first part is that typically all these projects get financed on what, 30-70 equity debt ratio. So if you are if the customer is kind of defaulting, and if you have to relocate the asset, step 1, your equity is anyway wiped out, because it's not while it may seem okay in theory that, well, I'll just pick up the plant and go somewhere, you still lose 20% of the value, or probably more depending on case to case basis. The second part is that even the financing institutions, basically anytime the off-taker defaults, they would basically recall the loan immediately, right? So either you would have to pay that loan out of your equity, or you would have to figure out a way you can get some salvage value out of the plant and sell it. So anytime it's a simple thing, right? If you have a bank asking for a loan payment immediately, and even if you have an asset that has some value, but you're looking to liquidate it as soon as possible, you're obviously going to realize less value from it. So I think that those are the 2 main challenges. In theory, it seems fine. We give comfort to customers that, we'll take the plant here and there. We do relocate the plants, and some customers are okay with it because that's the nature of their business, right? A lot of customers don't have their own, factories, etc. They are rented premises, and those are costs that they have, they are ready to bear themselves. Like, whatever that relocation cost is, they bear. And I think that's what our experience has been. Like, we relocate a good, I think 4-5 relocations we do every year, but that is because the customer demands it, because they've changed locations, they moved to a bigger facility, or they've given up a facility.
Thank you, Karan. I think for this session, I just want to put on one last question from my side, and that is specifically to the three developers again, because they are the ones who are defining the market growth. We are still, by December 2022, we still have to add more than 30 gigawatt of rooftop solar in India as per the government target. I wanted to just know what could be the concrete steps if ever we want to achieve, if ever that is a possibility we can achieve it.
Okay, so Jyoti, I don't think the government is steadfast on its 40. They're steadfast on the 100. And if you look at the mix of that 100 that MNRE had recently published, we're looking at 90 odd or something coming from, 80 or 90 coming from the utility segment. So we have the big picture intact, and we are very goal oriented, which is good on the 100. But unfortunately, the 40 is not going to happen. Nowhere close to that is going to happen, which is a pity because of the inherent advantages of rooftop solar in a country like India. And I don't say this because I work in the rooftop solar industry. I work in the rooftop solar industry because it is an area of potential. So it's a loss for everyone if we are not able to fix the inherent issues. If you look at every large solarized country in the world, they have a huge percentage of rooftop and on-premise solar. So I hope sooner rather than later, this ignored child gets due attention and is able to achieve its potential.
Let's hope for the best. Mr. Rai, what's your take?
So, most important thing is why we are not able to achieve on the rooftop part. Means I am very clear in my thoughts. Yes, it's a state level policy support or the lack of it, which the industry has not got. And unfortunately, after so much of effort which we as a professional or the companies have put in to actually make rooftop a viable option for a C&I thing, still if you actually go to any implementing agency, means I was surprised when I was interacting with one of the central implementing agencies about the overall process that these people have put in, and because of the COVID and all, there were scenarios where the execution was getting impacted. And we were asking for extension. I was surprised when that concerned person said, यार वो लोग ग्रिड कनेक्टेड वाले लोग परफॉर्मर हैं, आप लोगों ने क्या परफॉर्म किया है? आई वाज सो शॉक्ड कि आफ्टर ऑल दिस थिंग मैंने वो परफॉर्मर हैं, एंड हम लोगों ने क्या किया विद ऑल द एफर्ट्स व्हिच प्राइवेट डेवलपर्स आर एक्चुअली मेकिंग टू एंश्योर कि रूफटॉप एक्चुअली प्रोग्रेसेस, आवर पीपल they don't even understand कि because of all these things it is creating an issue. Till 2014-15 we were struggling to get net metering. Okay, and when we got net metering placed at various states, and when people have started adding capacities, all of a sudden we get a regulation where they have come up with whatever thoughts that were there in the mind: 5 kilowatt, 10 kilowatt, 500 kilowatt, then contract demand, then distribution transformer link, then RESCO will not be allowed, this will not be allowed. Means they have their own whims and fancies about how to stop rooftop. And when it actually takes all the boxes, whether it's about employment generation, whether it's about T&D distribution thing, where no requirement of transmission line, all the boxes are actually been ticked by rooftop industry. I don't know what's the issue, but even if we reach to 10 gigawatt by 2022, it will be great, and obviously it will be only because of private developers, professional like us, putting their heart and soul in rooftop deployment, will be able to reach. Definitely not with the government support, which anyhow they are not giving.
Karan, you want to add anything to it?
No, nothing else to add. I think issues are well known, well discussed over and over again. I think it is what it is, right? So obviously 40 gigawatt and all are probably out of the window a long time back. We still believe as a company, like, our thing is that, you can't stop an idea whose time has come. I think the fundamental economics are there. Like, Sri Prakash talked about, there are obviously government challenges, etc., that will be there. And we as an industry, I think, have been learning to live with it. Like, we get an adverse, at least in our company, I can say that, I actually don't come, I'm not from the solar industry. So when I first came in, I used to hear about all these things. I used to get, oh, today there's suddenly a news circular stopping something. I used to say, oh, this is a major impact on our business. Now we get it, and I think we read it and we just move on and say, yeah, that's life. So I think our industry is so used to now, dealing with adverse government circulars.
And lawyers are going to be really sad the day that we have regulatory issues sorted out. We keep so many legal firms in business.
True.
Right, guys. I think so. The time is up for the session, and I think to conclude it on a positive, still on a positive side, despite regulatory challenges, policy challenges, the market still is bullish. The market still is growing, and there is, I think, enough opportunities for all the players to play their part. Thank you, everyone. Thank you all the panelists for sharing such wonderful, enriching insights. Special thanks to Goodby for supporting us in this webinar. To the audience, the recording of the session will be available on our website shortly. Have a good day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please take care.
Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Please stay safe.
Yeah.
Stay safe.
Sure.
Yeah. Bye.
Okay.